on our annual Tony Award special. It is such a delight to have back in the neighborhood for the umpteenth, I've actually counted them, it's umpteen times, that Brian Scott Lipton has been with us discussing Tony categories. Now, Brian, by the way, is a former editor-in-chief of Theater Mania. He now writes for City Tour. He is a Tony voter, as well as a Drama Desk voter and Outer Critics Circle voter, so he sees everything. He writes about everything, which you can read at City Tour. Is that the website or
City, CITITOUR.com.
citytour.com?
Yes.
CITITOUR.com. So you can read him about the shows we will be discussing because his category is featured actress in a musical. Those include Shoshana Bean in The Lost Boys, Hannah Cruz in Chess, Rachel Dratch as the narrator in The Rocky Horror Show, Anna Gasteyer in Schmigadoon, and Nichelle Lewis in Ragtime. So first of all, welcome back, Brian. How you doing?
You, Dave. Wonderful. I made it through yet another season. I believe this is my 38th or something.
Mazel tov,
Well, since
as
I
yeah.
since I really started as a journalist, it's probably my 30th as a theater critic.
Wow. Big congrats. So where would you rank this season amidst the seasons that you have seen?
It was a
Yeah.
mixed bag, to be honest. We had fewer musicals than we've ever had because last year we had so many musicals that lost money that producers got a little shy this year. So we're really dealing with the smallest group. In fact, from this category, um, there were six original musicals and five revivals. There were only 11 total between the two musical categories, and that's kind of a new low. Um, so that made things a little trickier to nominate. And in fact, well, I was going to point out that one of the reasons this category really doesn't have a front runner is if you count Outer Critics and Drama Desk as the biggest precursor to figuring out the Tonys, and there's often a good correlation. Judy Kuhn, who starred or co-starred in the off-Broadway revival of The Baker's Wife, which hopefully may get to Broadway, won both of those awards. So none of these five women already have a trophy.
Right, right. And you should mention, or we're going to be mentioning probably all night tonight, that it's such a paucity of musicals in Toto that two of the best score nominees are from plays. It's good
Like,
scoring of music from plays, but your category
right,
is all about actresses. So
yes, it is.
lay on me. What do you think is going to win? What should win? Give me
Okay.
your stuff.
I will say that I think these are five very talented women in five very different shows. So while all Tony voting to me is apples and oranges, this seems more so than usual. Um, to answer your question,
Yeah.
let me give you the negatives for a second. Well, they're all very talented. Hannah Cruz is somebody I think we really should all watch out for. But Svetlana in Chess is such a sort of barely written role, and it really only comes through in the second act that I would be very shocked if she won.
Okay.
We have our two SNL alums, the fabulous Rachel Dratch and the even more fabulous, to me, Anna Gasteyer. They're both really funny in what they do. Rachel really deserves a special award for just dealing with the audience in Rocky Horror. And Anna is sort of sui generis and does an amazing job as Mildred in Schmigadoon with her patter song. But I still think they're sort of comic performances that probably won't resonate with Tony voters the
And
way
might cancel each other out because they're both SNL
um,
and they're both ridiculous
they're both
comic
out and
roles. Yeah.
they're in different shows, but I think that comic performances like that tend not to resonate with Tony voters who try to look, I think, for something maybe more dramatic. So I think what we have is a race between Nichelle Lewis in Ragtime and Shoshana Bean in The Lost Boys.
And
Um, so here's how I think it will go, and talking about both. Nichelle does some really remarkable work, especially her rendition of Her Daddy's Son and her duet of Wheels of Dream with Joshua Henry. She has been with this show since it was at City Center last fall. I just revisited it 2 weeks ago, and she has grown. I've now seen her do this three separate times, and she has grown every time in the role. And so Tony voters who may be seeing her just in this iteration will probably see the best version of her. But I think there are two strikes against her. The first, which is completely unfair, is that she's not Audra McDonald, who created this role in 1998, won her third Tony for it. And I kind of think I just think there was a whole feeling of people going, she was good, but she wasn't Audra. And second, as I even said, it's the reverse of Chess. Um, Sarah, the character Michelle plays, is only in the first act of Ragtime. I mean, she has about 3 seconds in the second act, something
Don't
that was
spoil
actually,
it. Don't spoil why
yeah.
she did. Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't spoil while she's not in it, but I think that will hurt her a bit in the Tony race because, she's really in half a show.
Right.
I know it didn't hurt Audra, but that was a very different year.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to go for the will win, should win, both to Shoshana Bean in The Lost Boys for three reasons. First of all, I mean, she's a remarkable performer with a voice that is just incredible. And here makes the most out of not even the best material. I mean, I think the score for The Lost Boys is good, but it's not going to be remembered a year from now, never mind 10 years from now. But they did give her two extraordinarily good ballads to sing. I think within the community, she may get a little bit of brownie points because she was not originally scheduled to play this role. Um, for the zillion years that the Lost Boys were in workshop, I'm exaggerating, but for many years, Casey Levy, who's the mother in Ragtime now, and this role was written for Casey. But when Casey had to make the decision about whether to go to the Lost Boys or stay with Ragtime, she decided to stay with Ragtime, for which she may well and deservedly win her Best Actress Tony, and Shoshana stepped in. Now, that was a few months before the show opened. I don't mean she came in a second before, but I still think people will give her some credit for that. And
Sure.
thirdly, she is a true Broadway veteran. I mean, although she hasn't done that many shows, she has actually been doing Broadway, and I did research this, for just about 25 years. Her first
Oh,
Broadway show was the original cast of Hairspray, where she was in a supporting role and eventually took over the lead. Um, she was in Elphaba and Wicked. There are two others. So was Anna. She's actually opposite another Elphaba and Wicked. Um, but I think she's really, respected and loved, I should say, within the community.
yeah.
And while the Tonys are not necessarily all that sentimental, I can tell you, the Tony voter, it's not really like the Oscars. We don't tend to give out sentimental Tonys. Most people really do vote for who they think is best. I
Yeah.
think she has the right combination. I also think The Lost Boys, while a lot of people thought it was more of a favorite going in, will end up actually falling pretty short. It will certainly win the technical categories, but I think honestly, Schmigadoon will end up sweeping most of the musical categories, and so this will also be a way for the Tony voters to reward the show in something other than lighting or set design,
Yeah.
and they might want to do that. So I think for all of those reasons, my money's on Shoshana.
Yeah. This might be another year
And
like,
and and
yeah.
this is also her third Tony nomination in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, I remember I
Um,
saw her in Mr. Saturday Night, and I liked
right,
that
that was her
show very
first, and then
much.
she was nominated for Hell's Kitchen, in which she played, Alicia Keys, or the fictional Alicia Keys' mother.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little. She's the only person here who actually has other Tony nominations, so I think that'll also factor in. So
So, Brian, are you voting for Shoshana Bean?
good
Or
question, because I haven't fully made up my mind. Um, but there's a good chance I might. But I may go a different way.
okay. Oh, yeah. Hey, as we mentioned, Brian is a Tony voter, and while we're saying this, he hasn't yet cast his ballot. So it's going to be
Yeah, I
really
tend to
interesting.
wait very very last minute. I don't really think at this point I'm going back to anything. I did go back to two or three shows. I don't think I'm going back to anything at this point. But we'll see how I feel the day I cast the ballot.
Now, real quick, one last question for Brian Scott Lipton before we have to let you go. But I am asking a lot of the critics, what was the first show you ever saw live theater?
I believe. It certainly was among the first shows. I grew up here in New York City till I was about 6, and my parents actually exposed me to musical theater when I was about 4 or 5. Um, so City Center used to do basically Broadway, revivals of Broadway shows with almost Broadway level production values.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first one I really remember was a production of Oklahoma that starred John Davidson as Curly, Susan Watson as Laurie, and Karen Morrow as Ado Annie. And it made a very strong impression on me.
Wow.
Um,
I mean,
and so
people will hear, oh, John Davis, who's by the way been on the show, but John Davis, but still, I mean, he was damn good.
he was really good and he was really hot,
Okay.
which also made a big impression on me. He knows this. John knows the whole story. I've written about it. And then I guess the other one, which was not City Center. My parents also that year bought a subscription to the Music Theater of Lincoln Center. The old the New York State
Yeah.
Theater. I will not call it the David Koch. Did also revivals, and I actually saw Ethel Merman in Annie Get Your Gun. I mean, it wasn't the original. She was much older.
Wow.
And to be honest, as I always tell people, she scared the hell out of me. She was just such a bigger. We were sitting upstairs. We weren't in the orchestra, but she was such a bigger, larger than life personality that to a little kid, she was
Oh,
almost scary without meaning to be. But it also really convinced me of the power of live theater.
it
Um,
convinced you there's no business like show business.
right. Exactly. And those really were two of the most formative ones. I didn't really get to Broadway per se till I was, I think, 9 or 10. I know one of the last casts of Fiddler on the Roof. I saw the Rothschilds, and then uh, dozens of shows in my teenage years. I was really fortunate that I got to see some of the greatest musicals of the 1970s, which I
Well,
think is such a peak era for musical theater.
well, we are very, very, very fortunate to have Brian Scott Lipton with us as a guest in the neighborhood on all our Tony shows, Talking Theater. Remember, please read him at citytour.com, CITITOUR.com. Brian, enjoy the Tonys, enjoy
Yes.
another wonderful theater season. Stay well. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.